So I wanted to take a moment to talk about this situation involving Nex Benedict. Nex Benedict is a non-binary high school student who was 16 years old and who tragically died shortly after being involved in a fight at school. Now, this is kind of a serious topic, and I don't want the alerts to be interrupting this topic, so I'm going to go ahead and mute the alerts for this. If any super chats or anything happen during the course of this segment, I'll read them afterwards. But I wanted to kind of go over this because I did have some thoughts on it. And so I thought the best place we can take a look at this is through this video a few days ago that Philip DeFranco did, kind of covering the topic. And so I kind of just wanted to react to this and give our thoughts as we go along. So let's go ahead and let's just dive into it.
We need to talk about the death of Nex Benedict. And I'll say right at the top, there are a lot of unknowns, and this is still a developing situation. Let's break down the information we do have to go off of. Because over the last 24 hours or so, there's been a lot of news and social media attention around this non-binary 16-year-old who died on February 8th. Notably, just one day after being injured.
Transgo Day says, every time somebody covers them, I want to cry from anger and sadness. Yeah, it's... You know, anytime you hear about something like this, it's really unfortunate. And as Philip DeFranco said here, you know, we're still learning a lot of the details of this incident. There's still a lot of unknowns. We're still waiting for some of the, you know, autopsy reports and toxicology reports, all that stuff. So there's still a lot of unknowns here. But I think there are still some important points that we can discuss in this situation that I have some thoughts about, and I want to share with you guys. But yeah, it's a, you know, anytime you hear a story involving, you know, a young person whose life was cut short, you know, for whatever reason, it's always extremely tragic to hear about these things. Really, really unfortunate.
During a fight in a girl's bathroom in Owasso High School in Oklahoma. Now, initially, there were conflicting reports about the student's name and pronouns, with this due in part to the fact that the obituary and a GoFundMe for funeral expenses referred to the teen by their birth name and gender assigned at birth. But Sue Benedict, the student's biological grandmother who raised them and adopted them a few years ago, has since cleared that up, telling The Independent that she provided Nex's birth name by accident, and saying, when you're going through something like this and you lose a child, you're not thinking right. We're getting a headstone done and Nex will be on there. Also adding that while she sometimes struggled to understand the nuances of Nex's identity, the teen was teaching her and was always understanding. Also explaining that the family, who trace some of their roots to the Choctaw Nation, promoted openness and discussions about gender and identity. With Sue going on to describe...
It's really nice to know that, you know, they grew up in a family that was very accepting of, you know, their non-binary identity. And even though they didn't necessarily understand all of it, that they were still willing to be, you know, supportive and stuff. Obviously, I'm somebody who's very supportive of like trans people and people, you know, with different gender identities and stuff like that. And I don't always understand everything. Like neo-pronouns, for example, I don't really understand them. But just because I don't understand them doesn't mean I'm going to be, you know, some piece of shit who's going to intentionally like misgender somebody or something like that. If somebody tells me, hey, these are my pronouns, I'll refer to them as their pronouns, right? It's just kind of the way that I, you know, do things. I think that people deserve to be treated with respect, no matter who they are, no matter what they are, no matter how they identify, etc. So yeah, it's one of those things. Brian says, be careful with this one, Tippy. Autopsy could say something completely different. And also, she threw the water first. Watch out. Yeah, I know that there's still a lot of details that aren't super clear here. So I am treading lightly with this particular topic, but I do think that we know enough to kind of share my thoughts on this situation. Anyway, let's continue.
High school sophomore who was a straight A student who loved drawing, reading, video games, and their cat, saying, I was so proud of Nex. They were going someplace. They were so free. Nex had a light in them that was so big. They had so many dreams. I wanted their light to keep shining for everyone. And Sue also echoed those sentiments in an update on GoFundMe, where she apologized for dead naming Nex, and adding that all the money left over from the funeral fundraiser will go to other children dealing with the right to be who they feel they are in Nex Benedict's name. And yesterday, as the news began to spread and gain national attention, we saw law enforcement and school officials issuing statements on the death.
Chicken Live said, even if they started the fight, they shouldn't have been that badly injured. Yeah, it's really insane. Like, you know, obviously, you know, we've all had our moments where we've been in high school and we've had to endure like a lot of the shit that happens in high school. You know, I've had my fair share of scraps when I was in high school and stuff like that. I think everybody at least once experiences a fight when they're in school, high school or middle school, something like that. Everybody experiences something like that at some point. And very rarely do you hear somebody get into a fight that is so bad that they end up having to go to the hospital as a result of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not something that's like super common. You might get a little scratched up, a little bruised up or whatever, but like having to go to the hospital because you've been beaten so badly, like, that's fucking weird. Throwing water first, being the justification for you getting injured that badly is ridiculous. Yeah, exactly.
At an altercation that preceded it. Notably there, neither had identified the student who had been killed. And in a statement posted on its website, Owasso
Granny from Narnia says, I experienced a lot of bullying. Yeah, in the earlier grades, I want to say like elementary school and middle school, I experienced a lot of bullying myself. In high school, I had decided I had had enough of it. And this is not, okay, I want to be clear here. I'm not advocating for violence or anything like that. I'm just sharing my personal experience as a teenager. I got really tired of being bullied in elementary school and middle school. And I decided in high school, I had had enough of it. Okay, so I'm like, the first person who tries to mess with me, I'm going to fight back this time. And I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And so I fought back, and I let out many, many, many years of frustration on this one person. Like, I feel very bad for how badly I hauled off on them, because we're talking about years and years of frustration with bullying being let out on one person. And after that, the thing about high school is like word spreads. So after that, nobody fucked with me anymore. After that, nobody fucked with me. Word spread. You can't fuck with this guy anymore because he fights back now, and nobody fuck with me anymore about that. Again, not advocating for violence, obviously, just sharing my personal experience with high school. But yeah, like, even then though, all the bullying and all the, scraps that I was involved in high school, I never seen, or even like other people that I've seen get in fights, I've never seen anybody get beaten so badly that they had to go to a hospital afterwards. That's fucking insane.
Public Schools said it sought to address, quote, speculation and misinformation surrounding the case, and, quote, particularly statements that call into question the district's commitment
Brian, we're already well aware of that. We've already discussed that. Chill out.
to student safety and security, though also noting that some of the aspects could not be disclosed due to federal privacy laws and an ongoing police investigation. As far as what they could provide, they said that a physical altercation had taken place at a restroom in the high school on February 7th, saying the students were in the restroom for less than 2 minutes and the fight was broken up by other students who were there, as well as a staff member who was supervising outside of the restroom. And according to this statement, after the fight was broken up, all of the involved students walked under their own power to the assistant principal's office and nurse's office, with it then going on to say that per district protocols, each student was given a health assessment by a district registered nurse. Now, very notably here, the statement also said that while it is protocol for students who need more medical help to be moved to a medical facility by an ambulance or a parent or guardian, quote, it was determined that ambulance service was not required, but added, out of an abundance of caution, it was recommended to one parent that their student visit a medical facility for further examination. And in a separate...
That doesn't make sense to me, right? That doesn't make sense to me. Why would you say that an ambulance wasn't necessary, but you still felt the need to tell the parent you should still have a doctor take a look? I feel like if it's so bad that you think a doctor needs to take a look at it, that maybe it would have been justified to call an ambulance. No? I don't know. I feel like that's the case to me. But anyway.
Statement posted on Facebook, the Owasso Police Department confirmed that it had been summoned to the hospital for a student who had been involved in a physical altercation at the school. But also, very significantly here, OPD noted that, quote, no report of the incident had been made prior to the notification at the hospital. Now, the school district, for their part, tried to explain this by claiming that it is protocol to inform parents and guardians when students are involved in altercations and then let them decide if they want to file a police report. There, many people have expressed outrage that the school had not called an ambulance or police. And this including Sue Benedict, who actually told the...
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, right? It doesn't make sense to me. If you feel like their injuries are enough that it's justified to notify the parents that, hey, you should probably take your kid to a healthcare facility to be better examined, why not just call the paramedics? I don't get it.
independent that not only did the school fail to take either of those actions, it also suspended Nex for 2 weeks. Beyond that, Sue also provided the outlet with a number of other details that were not included in either of the official reports, saying that Nex had actually been bullied at school for being non-binary and that bullying had specifically started at the beginning of the 2023 school year, notably just months after Oklahoma's Republican.
This is the big part I want to talk about here. This is the big part I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that the bullying was going on. This is where I want to kind of chime in with my thoughts. But anyway.
Governor Kevin Stitt signed legislation forcing public school kids to use bathrooms that match their sex assigned at birth. And actually, according to Sue, Nex had told her about the February 7th altercation, saying that they and a trans student had been in a fight with 3 older girls in the ladies' bathroom, saying that Nex had been knocked to the ground during the fight and hit their head on the floor. And as the Independent reported, when Sue was called to the school, she found Nex badly beaten with bruises over their face and eyes and with scratches on the back of their head. The outlet describing the teen's head injury as severe. And after picking Nex up, Sue took them to the hospital where they were later discharged and sent home. But then the next day, when Nex was getting ready to leave the house, they collapsed, with Sue calling an ambulance, but when the EMTs arrived, they found Nex had stopped breathing. And just like that, this 16-year-old was declared dead at the hospital that evening. And that account also appeared to be confirmed by the police statement.
Like I said, anytime a younger person dies, no matter how the death happens, it's always really, really, really tragic. You never, ever, ever want to see, a young person, die that young, or you never want to see a parent have to experience the loss of a child like that, a parent or a guardian. I feel a lot for them at their time of loss, obviously.
Though it also noted it is not known at this time if the death is related to the incident at the school or not, saying the police were conducting a thorough investigation and awaiting an autopsy report and toxicology.
Hey everyone, this story is so sad. Even if the precise cause wasn't the fight, this is how they spent their final moments with life, being bullied relentlessly for who they were. So messed up. Exactly. See, that's kind of the point I want to make here, and I'll get into more detail after we take a look at this video here and some of the other details that we're going to be going over. But that's the most important part to me, is the bullying and what causes this type of bullying against LGBTQ folks. Anyway, let's continue.
Results. Also adding that their findings will be sent to the Tulsa County District Attorney's Office for prosecution review, and final cause of death will be determined by the state's medical examiner's office. And with this, you also had a police spokesperson telling reporters that all charges will be on the table once the cause of death is confirmed. So there, you have people pointing out that all charges are in fact not on the table because Oklahoma law doesn't recognize hate crimes based on gender or sexual orientation. And that's really important here because many LGBTQ plus advocates and people on social media have said that Nex's death amounts to a hate crime, with the advocacy group Freedom Oklahoma saying in a statement, "We want to be clear, whether Nex died as a direct result of injuries sustained in the brutal hate-motivated attack at school or not, Nex's death is a result of being the target of physical and emotional harm because of who Nex was." And going on to directly blame Oklahoma lawmakers, saying,
that's the thing, right? Is like, even if the fight wasn't the direct cause of death, the kind of bullying that they faced, they experienced hate because of their gender identity. Like, absolutely. They were bullied likely because of their gender identity. And I think that that's a problem. I think that that's a huge problem.
This harm is absolutely related to the rhetoric and policy.
Like, I remember in high school, I don't think we had anybody who was transgender when I was in high school, but I know we had gay people. And like, gay people were regularly targeted for harassment and abuse at school. And it's one of those things that, like, you would like to think that in, the current day that would get better. And it clearly hasn't, because here we are in 2024, only 2 months in to 2024. And we're talking about somebody who was bullied relentlessly at school because they were non-binary.
That are commonplace at the Oklahoma legislature, the State Department of Education, and the governor's office. And that blame is something that has been echoed by many, many others. Right? And this, as Oklahoma has been a major hub for anti-trans policies in recent years, and especially ones targeting young folks. Right? In addition to the public school bathroom ban, the state under Governor Stitt also banned the use of non-binary gender markers on IDs and restricted gender-affirming care. I mean, hell, less than 2 months into 2024, legislators proposed over 50 anti-LGBTQ plus laws. That's more than literally any other state. And this is Oklahoma isn't a stranger to LGBTQ plus controversies going viral, with a number of the stories connected to the account and the owner of the account of Libs of TikTok, who, by the way, I mean, just in the last month, Oklahoma's openly anti-trans superintendent Ryan Walters, he put her on the Oklahoma Department of Education Advisory Board, even though she literally doesn't live.
That's like really weird. My understanding is their whole involvement in that is the whole like banning LGBT related books from like school libraries and stuff like that. And it's just like, I think what's funny is like when you deal with conservative types, a lot of them want to talk about like free speech, freedom of speech and whatnot, but then they're turning around and they're banning books from school libraries. Like it's so insane.
Live in Oklahoma and has no experience in education. But bring this back to next. We're gonna have to wait to see what comes from this investigation and then what's gonna follow that. And in the meantime, of course, I want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts here?
Okay, so that's that video there. The other thing I want to take a look at before I get into my thoughts is we recently had the body cam footage of when Nex was in the hospital and kind of sharing their thoughts on what happened. This was posted by Alejandra Caraballo. Newly released body cam footage shows the Awaso, Dan, I always butchered that name. I apologize. A high school resource officer speaking with Nex Benedict and their family at the hospital confirms that it was 3 girls who were bullying Nex over a month and that they beat her on the ground in the bathroom after they threw water. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at this. Let's see what Nex had to say in their statement to the school resource officer.
Hey, stranger.
Hey,
Oh,
Mr.
you-
Thompson.
Hi, Mom. Officer Thompson. We spoke on the phone the other day.
Yes.
So,
I'm glad you're here.
So, what happened today?
I got jumped.
Tell me about it. What happened?
They've been.
See, that's insane to me. Like, you've got one person going up against 3 girls, okay? Like, they had no shot. All right. Like, even if they were the one that agitated it by throwing the water, that's the claim that's kind of going around is, you know, allegedly they threw water at the other individuals first, and that's what resulted in the conflict. Even if that's the case, you got 3 versus 1. Like, how was that ever going to have a positive outcome in their favor?
And antagonizing, you know the people that I got caught with?
You mean from the other day of the,
Yeah.
the vaping situations?
Yeah,
Okay.
that one. They were in this too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Where's my glasses? Can't see anything.
Sorry. Okay, what I was told, they called me. I'll just start there. They called me, and well, I know all week long she's been in ISP, right? Doing great.
Okay.
And everything. We had a long talk. I mean, we've been doing awesome. And she told me, she said, Mom, she said, these 3 girls there are just, they won't leave me alone. They're making comments. They're calling us names. They're throwing stuff at us. And this is an ISP. I'm like, well, who's over this place? I said, ignore it, Dagny. Get above it.
That's like always the most annoying, frustrating thing when you have like a kid who's being bullied, is it seems like the schools don't do anything about it. Like, you will have situations where parents will complain to the schools time and time and time again, my kid's being bullied for this reason, or my kid's being bullied for that reason. And like, they don't do anything. Like, it's not like it's that difficult to like, okay, like let's say your kid is in a class with another kid who's continually bullying them in that class. How difficult is it to move the kid who's like bullying the other kid? How difficult is it to move them to another classroom or do some kind of situation that splits the two apart so that the bullying discontinues? Like, it's really not that difficult to solve these kind of problems, but for whatever reason, like, so many times you hear about this shit and the schools do nothing. Nothing.
Just ignore it.
Sure.
She did until she couldn't in the bathroom. And they said that there was 3 girls that were on top of her, just beating the crap out of her. And I said, okay, so what are we doing about this? Oh, well, in a couple of days we'll talk about it. I said, no, I want something just.
We'll talk about it in a couple days. They were just jumped by 3 students that day. Why are we going to talk about it in a couple days? See, that's what I mean. They don't take this shit seriously.
Who said it in a couple of days?
The principal.
Okay.
Why are they saying that? I said, I think we need to have a police officer. It's assault. Because she never touched them. Okay. She never touched them. Now, she
But
did.
based on your understanding.
Yeah. Now
Okay.
she did, and everyone has said it. She did throw some water at them because they, you know.
So let me, and I appreciate, Mom, you
Okay, so there's that video there. And is there more in this thread? There is. Okay, so what is this here? Next was bullied by these girls for over a month. Didn't report it to the school because they thought there was no point. And that's what happens to a lot of these kids who are victims of bullying, is it gets to the point where they're like, well, the school doesn't do anything anyway. So why am I even going to bother telling them what's happening to me? I remember, you know, back in like elementary school and middle school, back when I used to get bullied, I remember, like, you know, initially you would tell the school about it. You'd tell your teacher, you'd tell your principal, whatever. And you would tell them about it and hope that they would do something. And then after a while, you realize nothing gets done. So it's like, well, I got jumped again, but why am I even going to bother telling anybody? Nothing gets done about it. You know, like, it's really fucked up that happens. Didn't bother to report it to the school because what's the point? Given the climate for LGBT youth in Oklahoma, this is not surprising.
Okay.
So let me ask you this first. And I'm taking this off of what Mama just said. So clear up the confusion. When this first started happening, whatever this is going, this banter back and forth between you and the other individuals, did you at any point contact any school administration, whether it be counselor, the teacher that sits in that classroom? Did you let any of them know at any point in time?
No.
Okay. And I'm just asking, there's no right or wrong, but why not?
I didn't really see the point in it. I told my mom though.
Sure. But you didn't tell the school where they.
Okay.
So let me.
Yeah, so it's the same sort of thing. It's just you get fed up that nothing's getting done, and so you just don't bother anymore after a while. Next never knew the girls before being put in school suspension, ISP, over a vape pen. The girls in ISP kept making comments about Nex because of the way they dressed. The girls mocked Nex in the bathroom. Nex poured water on the girls, and then they proceeded to beat Nex.
Actually do something. At any point during this whole situation, and I use the word.
Someone in the chat says most school officials and teachers could care less about helping kids. They are nothing more than a means to a paycheck. Yeah, it seems like, you know, and I'm not going to say that all people who work in schools don't actually care about kids. I actually believe that a lot of people who work in schools actually do care a lot about kids. But there are some people that some people become school employees just to be high paid, daycare. For kids, and they don't do their job very well. They're just kind of there. And as a result of that, when stuff like this comes up, they don't care. You know, they do what they have to do to make it seem like they care, but they don't actually care. And as a result of this, like a lot of situations like this where kids are being brutally like attacked and harassed and stuff like that, like nothing gets done about it. Nothing. If those 3 girls aren't expelled, the principal should get fired. Yeah, probably.
The word loosely, but the bantering or whatever it is going back and forth between you guys. Obviously, you know each other. Obviously, you both
We
got.
don't know each other.
Well, you know of each other with the vape situations and all that.
No, before this we had no recollection. Before this ISP thing, we never saw each other. The fresh.
DeWitt's in the chat says, I don't know. I feel like teachers do advocate for kids just in that state. I'm sure most of the adults that are there have a bias against LGBT. Yeah, I mean, because we've already seen, as the Philip DeFranco video discussed, like a lot of the issues that are affecting the LGBT community in that state. So you're probably onto something there, honestly.
Freshmen were sophomore.
Okay.
We didn't know any.
Okay.
I don't know their names. I don't know.
Okay. So they just up and decided to just start messing with you.
Yeah, because of the way that we dress.
Okay, so you didn't do anything at all at any point in time that would have, even a couple days ago or even a month ago or anything like that.
I don't know these girls.
Okay, all right. So they just continue to pick on you and pick on you. Then at some point,
and that's what happens sometimes, right? Is like when you're a target of bullying, eventually you're going to hit a point where like you get frustrated. I know, like, somebody in the chat earlier and some people on social media have been pointing out, well, they got jumped because they were agitating the other girls by, pouring water on them or whatever. And it's like, first of all, I don't think pouring water on someone is justification for the kind of beating that Nex got. That's number one. But we're listening to it here. This is somebody who had been bullied by these girls for a while now. And eventually you get to a point where you're like, enough is enough. And you try to do something to defend yourself. And maybe that was their breaking point, where they were just like, I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of these people continuing to be able to bully me. And so that was like their response. You could argue it wasn't a great response, but having said that, like, you just, exactly, like Midnight Kitty in the chat says, you eventually snap.
What happened? They got up and confronted you in class, or
We were.
And considering the severity of the bullying they were facing, I'd say that, like, I don't even know if I would call pouring water on somebody snapping. You know what I mean? Like, that seems pretty light considering to the beating that they had to endure in response to it.
did you say it was the bathroom or
Bathroom.
the hallway? Okay, the bathroom.
We were going to stack chairs, and after we stacked chairs, we went to the bathroom.
Okay.
And I was talking with my friends, they were talking with their friends, and we were laughing, and they had said something like, "Why do they laugh like that?" And they were talking about us in front of us. And so I went up there and I poured water.
The "look what you made me do" defense is DeWitt's in the chat. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you splashed some water on me, so now I'm gonna beat the fucking shit out of you. Like, what the fuck?
Water on them.
Okay.
And then all three of them came at me.
You know.
Okay, so there's that video there. Next poured water on one of the girls from a water bottle. The girls started attacking Nex, who tried to fight back. They fell to the ground while the girls proceeded to beat Nex until they Jeez. So they beat them until they blacked out. See, that's insane. I'm sorry. Like, I don't think there's any justification for beating someone that bad over having some water splashed on you from a water bottle. I'm sorry. I don't agree with that.
Pouring the water, because I'm trying to get this in my mind so I see, as best
I had a
can.
water bottle.
Thank you. That's exactly. Where did you get this water? Was it a cup you found? Was it your water bottle?
It's my
your daily water bottle you'd carry around.
It was a plastic water bottle.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so you squirted them with water, or threw water on whatever it was. Okay. Then at that point, what happened?
They came at me. They grabbed onto my hair. I grabbed onto them. I threw one of them into a paper towel dispenser, and then they got my legs out from under me and got me on the ground and started beating the shit out of me.
Okay.
And then my friends tried to jump in and help.
So they intentionally tried to get them in a position where they could not defend themselves. That was their goal. Like, if they're pulling at their legs to try and get them to fall over, they are intentionally trying to get Nex into a position where Nex cannot defend themselves. And then they're just jumping. Jesus.
But I'm not sure I blacked out.
Okay, so there's that. The police officer confirmed that the school did not follow procedure. The school did not follow procedure and notify police of the assault. The officer makes excuses for the school and then blames the mother for not calling while at the school, even though she called once at the hospital. Thus this video. Oh boy, we're playing the blame game.
So I'm going to follow up, Mom, as far as you're concerned. I'm going to definitely follow up with the school tomorrow morning. Figure out, because, yes, any criminal type action, the school is supposed to give us a call.
That's good.
So whether they just got, and I'm not making excuses for them, but I've seen it happen both ways. Either maybe they forgot, maybe there was other things going on. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is they dropped the ball on this one of not notifying me.
Absolutely. They absolutely dropped the ball. I don't think we should be making any excuses for them. Like, I understand, like, a school is a busy place. Office staff have a lot on their plate. Like, I understand that. But, like, when you're dealing with a situation like this, I'm sorry, but, like, there's no excuse. You make this situation a priority and you follow the goddamn protocol.
Right away.
I told them
So-
I wanted something done.
Sure,
I
sure.
said, that is assault. She never
So-
laid her hands. Now, she did
Well-
the water. That was wrong.
Well, and I'll explain the criminal side of that in just a second.
Okay.
But as far as the school goes, just for what it's worth, just I will on behalf, I will speak to the school tomorrow. Not that it's going to make it any better, but I'm also going to gather all the information I can from all parties. Okay, so not only talking to you guys, but I am going to go talk to all the other parties tomorrow as well,
Yes.
and their guardians as well, and all that good stuff. Okay, but yes, typically they're supposed to, but they're human.
I know, but if
But
I
it's-
tell them, why
right.
didn't they do it?
I don't know. I can't account for,
I was there,
that.
she
I
asked.
don't know. I don't know.
And they told me I had to
but
wait.
Also,
So if you don't know, then why are you making excuses for them? Like, you don't have to make excuses for them if you don't know why they did what they did. Like, geez.
but also, Mom, and again, I'm not taking their side or anything. I'm just telling you, just parent to parent kind of thing, adult to adult. Nothing says that you can't pick up the phone either.
That's why I did.
But I mean, before even being here at the school, hey, 911. I'm at whatever school. I'm at the West Campus. I've asked the school to contact one of the school resource officers. They're not doing it in a timely manner. Dispatch me one out. Then they get on my main side channel.
Imagine grilling someone for not calling the cops when the reason why you're talking to them now is because they called the cops. Like, it seems so fucking ridiculous.
Hey, Officer Thompson, come out just like right now. Officer Thompson, we've got a student with an altercation, a situation that happened at the West Campus sometime today. Can you go follow up now at the ER? So that'll just get me to the high school that much quicker.
Okay.
For your preference. You see what I'm
Okay,
saying?
so I should have went ahead and did it.
If the school does not want to call, you have every right as a guardian.
Okay.
I want a
DeWitt's cops cover everyone, everybody's ass except for the victim, the one person they should be protecting. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've never been super fond of cops. I've only had a few run-ins with cops myself. Never as like anybody who, was being, questioned for like a crime or anything like that. It was only like I had to call the cops for like different reasons or whatever. And they don't do shit. they every experience I've ever had with law enforcement has been fucking terrible. Jeez.
police officer. If the school's not going to do it, fine. You take the initiative. You pick up the phone and you go ahead and call and say, I would like an officer here.
Okay, so there's that full video. Okay, so they have a link to the full video or whatever. But in any case,
Hey, stranger.
there's that. So I did say, as Brian rightfully pointed out in the chat, this is still a developing story. We don't know all the details yet. We're still waiting on, last time I checked, we're waiting on toxicology reports and some other tests that are being done to determine the cause of death or whatever. Having said that, I do still think that there's an important conversation to have here in regards to what happened here, because this is a person who was the victim of relentless bullying because of their gender identity. And the reason why I want to talk about this, we see a lot of conversation on social media from conservatives about, pride being recognized in schools, and they don't want, their kids taught about LGBT stuff or whatever. And the way they talk about it, they make it seem like the schools are like teaching kids how to have like gay sex or something like that, which isn't what happened. It's the typical outrage, moral outrage, conservative shit where they cry outrage about something that's not actually happening. But I think it is important to educate kids on, gender identity and things like that, in the sense that helping them come to a place of understanding. When schools are recognizing pride and stuff like that, like that's what this is supposed to be about. It's about teaching kids how to understand these things and how to be respectful to people who may be different than themselves, right? And I think that that's a valuable thing to teach kids. We have a lot of kids who are, being bullied because they're LGBT, or they're bullying people because they're LGBT, because they're coming from a place of like ignorance. And like society teaches a lot of people, like if somebody's different than you, then that's bad. And those people need to be picked on and bullied and stuff like that. And I think that if we did a better job of educating kids on, yeah, these people may be different than you, but here's why that's okay. And they teach them like understanding and compassion and empathy and stuff like that in relation to these topics. I think we can avoid a lot of these types of situations where kids get bullied because they're gay, or because they're trans, or because they're non-binary, or whatever thing that a kid might be that makes them different from the other kids. I think that it's very valuable to teach kids how to be understanding, respectful, and supportive of their peers who may be different than them. And that's why I really wanted to talk about this. It's insane to me that like I went to school and I was watching LGBT kids get bullied in school because of that lack of understanding. And, you know, as much as things have changed over the years, and as much as, you know, LGBT people are more accepted and stuff, you know, in 2024 and beyond, we still live in a society where kids are still getting bullied and getting abused and attacked for being LGBT. So it shows that we still have a lot of work in teaching people how to be more accepting of each other. I think that that's the important takeaway that we can take from this situation, that there's still a lot of work to be done. So it's really unfortunate that Nex lost their life. No child should ever have to die that young. And my heart is with their loved ones, their friends, their family. Obviously, this is a very difficult time. They're doing a lot of grieving, and I wish them nothing but the best. But yeah, we still have a lot of work to do to prevent these kinds of situations from happening in society. I don't know what the answer is, but I think a lot of the moral outrage about, you know, kids learning about LGBT topics in school, I think it does more harm when it comes to situations like this than it helps. So I don't know. My condolences to everybody personally affected by the loss of Nex.